Excellent. All right, it is, everybody want to make sure their phones are on vibrate. All right, 7 o'clock.
Cheryl, is there anybody else on here with us? Participants?
Well, we probably
There's
should have
7
gone
or-
on earlier and left it on mute, so that way it'd be a
And-
chance for people to get
Is
on.
there-
I don't believe the agenda got posted on the website either.
Oh, bummer.
It's the thing, so
That's what,
So what's it say up there, participants? What's it say,
It
7?
didn't.
it's us. We're the participants. See?
Oh, so nobody else is on.
attendees 0.
See?
All right.
The
Chief
panelists,
Brown, Chief
that's
Brown
the
said he
vote.
was, Chief Brown said he was gonna be on.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order per ORS 192.610 to 192.690. The meeting's being recorded. It'll be uploaded to our website for anybody who would like to review it. Okay, so we're coming along. Invocation is going to be conducted by Mr. Bill Youngberg. Thank you, sir.
I want to start out today with just a couple of verses of scripture. Paul wrote to the Philippian church, he said, rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. The Lord is near. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Some of the things I do as a pastor, one of the biggest things I do is basically talk people off the ledge. We live in a society right now that is so anxious about everything, even kids. We see the suicide rate going up for kids, and it's everywhere. So a little bit of peace and a little bit of comfort goes a long way. I tell you all of that because what you are doing here brings some comfort to the community. Our community is very anxious. We're divided like never before. But people are worried about fire, really worried about wildfire. And what you're doing by getting this department together and whatever you're doing, I have a lot of confidence in all of you. It's going to bring comfort to this community. But let's pray. God, we bow before you, knowing, God, that you are a holy God and that you created everything, the universe, everything in it. And you not only created it, but you're the one that keeps it going. And we know that nothing really happens without either you allowing it or causing it. So we should take some comfort in that. Right now, I want to pray for this group of people here. God, I pray that you would just inspire them. I pray that you would come alongside each one and let any divisiveness be gone, God, that there be some unity in the group and that you'd be glorified through it all, God. And I pray for all those, especially right now, they're out there fighting a fire. I pray for safety for all those men and women that are involved in that. I pray that they'd be able to knock that down and be done with it soon. But we know it's dry out there and things can get away in a hurry. God, I just pray for all these people. And I pray, God, that you would touch each one and just bring some peace amongst us. Not only in Estacada, in our fire department, but in our country, God. It's a mess right now. So we just offer up this time to you and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bill.
Yep, thank you very much.
You betcha.
All right, let's go ahead and go with the flag salute. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like the record to reflect that Chief O'Connor is on a fire in our fire district right now, so he may be joining us at a later time, or we may miss him for the whole meeting, but he's doing the business of the fire district right now. So I'm going to conduct roll call. Directors Miller.
Present.
Oliver.
Present.
McAdoo,
Present.
Day,
Present.
and Silva is present. Directors, have you had a chance to look over the business items, and do you have any agenda items to add?
This is the first meeting in July, so we need to elect new board positions.
Okay, then you want to just put it at the end? We'll go, why don't we do this? So we have a couple things. I've got a resolution that we need to do. So B7, resolution 21-02, a revised copy. I've got a copy of it right here. And then B8, I would like to talk about water tenders and lists of resources for wildfire, and just have a healthy discussion about it and see if any action can come out of it. And then we'll do B9. Are you good with Wes just adding it at the end there? Yeah, B9 we'll do election of board officers.
I just didn't see it on there. So.
Okay. All right. Any other? Nope. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and go forward with the first business item, maintenance contract.
So,
No, that's B1's the
Oh,
IT.
oh yeah, IT.
well, I've got a.
Oh.
Oh, you know what I realized?
You got an old one.
You sent me an old one
Oopsie.
because I'm reading the printed one that I have.
That's okay, just roll with it.
You sent the email, so
I think she was, yeah, she sent you the old one.
no, I've got two. This is the one I printed it
Yeah,
to read
Okay.
today since I didn't get a chance to get it.
Well, it changed since
yeah,
2 o'clock this afternoon.
she
don't you
got it.
know?
She got it to you.
All right. All right, B1, approval of IT work to be done, including upgrade to server, firewall, and adding cradle points. So I think we do have Carrie here, who is our IT provider. Maybe you could give us a little insight to this.
We, I gave the chief the final numbers of the next couple of phases of the upgrades that need to take place here. These were discussed in the preliminary planning of what equipment was needed and what needed to come online after the July 1st transition. This was to take place after we converted all the mail, which we did out of the gate. So the understanding that I had was that we would do this in phases, and I presented it as such. And that is what the two items that I left with Chief O'Connor today are for, would be the replacement of the server and the replacement of cradle point components, new firewalls, and the same for the George station. These two quotes have to happen, for lack of a better way of putting it, I'm going to say simultaneously. Right now, we've run into a circumstance where there's, availability issue. Where these quotes were initially done, there was availability to get product right away. Now I'm looking at a server ship date ETA of August, early August. So I did want to kind of bring that up there. And this also incorporates, Clackamas wants their network space back. That's part of the transition as well. I've already talked to CCOM about this, and that's essentially where a lot of this is planned into as well. So we have to rescind or give Clackamas back their IT space and establish new IT space, which has already been predetermined by the county. And a lot of these components are needed in order to do that. Clackamas County is wanting to take out there's a Juniper Networks firewall in the cabinet here that they no longer want to support, and it's aged out. So we needed devices that could support what that's doing, and that's all in the books here.
Okay. And since this is looking for a thing, can you talk a little bit about the dollars that we're looking at for this?
What would you like me to?
Total of the phase one, whatever that has to be done simultaneously, so we know what we need to consider.
Well, so the two of these together are, I'm sorry, I did not do the math.
20,609.
Thank you, Paul. So that's what they are. We would progress bill that, I guess you could say. The way that I've always worked with the fire department and all of my customers is that when it comes to a project like this, we are a smaller organization. We don't necessarily demand any money up front, especially from our longer term customers, but we bill as the product comes in. So we would get started with getting the server ordered so that can have time to get here, and the hardware for the connectivity, we would get that ordered as well, and then look to deploy it. I'm going to say as it comes in for now. I need to, there's still some planning in place that we need to pencil out so that when we do this, the changeover is going to take everything down, and we need to do it as least obtrusive and with less downtime as possible. So I'm not really sure if that answers your question, but that would be the total amount for the two bids together, and it would come in chunks of the server is this much, the firewall is this much.
Now, I know everything's kind of electronically connected, the computer system. Are we going to have any loss of dispatch in getting rigs out that front door?
I don't anticipate that.
Okay.
With the understanding that I have, if I can throw this in, that they've been, known to convert to radio and, some of the older technologies, like when the internet is down or whatever the case may be. I would see that might be the case on a temporary basis, but I'll work with CCOM to see what we can do to minimize that.
That's what I would like to know, is that if there's a call for service, we get a rig out the door, So.
And that's definitely on my mind as well. That's why I haven't really fully made it all the way through the planning stage yet.
Have we done this before at Estacada Fire? Did you do this years ago when you first started with us?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a couple of components on here that we haven't. Well, you know what? I don't know that I can say it that way. Yes, we've done it before, only different.
Okay.
So it's just, now Estacada Fire is going to be providing all the components as opposed to Clackamas providing one of them.
Okay.
So
is there any redundancy built into the hardware?
in the server, yes, there's redundancy built into the server. In the connectivity components, there's redundancy built into. I expect a redundant connection here at the station because that's how it is now. There's an LTE backup here at the station if the primary internet goes down, which never happens, right? And we did George does not have any redundancy, just simply because there isn't a good area of coverage up there for like an LTE backup. And it's never been impressed upon me that that was important for George. I don't know if that has changed. I believe that the fiber ring from here, Reliance, I think, had to do with the construction of the fiber ring between here and George, where there wasn't fiber before.
There's fiber there.
Yeah. So I do know that. George going down actually really hasn't been an issue that.
So let me step in for a second. So what are you doing at George exactly?
George is going to get a new firewall, and that's about it.
So it's my understanding the department moving forward, we're going to have students up there and volunteers up there and everything. So there's, I don't know exactly how that will change the needs over what it has been, if it will even change the needs.
We have a computer up there, right?
There's
Yes.
Two computers up
Yeah.
there, so.
Okay.
So,
Just wanted to make sure we weren't stepping over something.
No, this was spec'd out basically to refresh the hardware that's already in George. That's about it.
Could you utilize the hardware here for George if you had a direct fiber connection between the two stations and have to minimize the expense up there?
That's a good idea.
wow.
Think about that for a second.
Do you know anybody that knows about fiber?
Well, no, the termination that's in place up there now, we're given an Ethernet handoff. And that doesn't need to change. So one of the other reasons that the equipment's getting replaced is because the cradle points for both George and here are 5-6 years old. So they're also basically at their end of life state. They're also currently no longer under any support. And the expense as it pertains to George is actually pretty minimal. On the quote for George, basically the bottom two components, quote 2550, if anybody has a copy of that, the bottom two components are the only things that are going to George, and those are for a 3-year maintenance plan on the devices themselves. The rest of that is joint station.
$1,500 for George. A little over $1,500 for George. $1,600.
What I like about it is the original budget that I seen from a couple of years ago, they were like 100 grand is what they budgeted for this. That would be apples and apples, wouldn't it? I mean, what we're getting, well, you don't even know because they didn't even ask you for a bid.
Well, no, they were provided with bids very similar to this.
Okay,
So there were line item quotes, if you will,
yeah.
for the devices that we put in place.
Did you provide that bid or, oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
It's just technology's changed that much that we can come in much under that now?
They were
Well,
using his numbers, they fluffed it out.
you know,
He
again,
just
they,
said that, he just said they, he provided the numbers.
But
well,
not,
in
not
that,
the 100 grand.
Yeah.
not for the full, yeah.
Okay,
In that-
okay.
In that
Okay.
process, that there were a lot of things grouped in there.
So we budgeted 37,285 and we're at 20,609. Is there anything we're shorting in this versus what was budgeted? Is there anything we're shortcutting or?
Some of that 30,000 is probably stuff he's already been doing.
That's just the hardware.
Yeah, well, these quotes also are incorporative of some labor estimates, I will say that. But when you say the budget that you're talking about, is that for expenditures for the year, or does that incorporate
That-
the expense in general?
What I seen from the 18 budget, it said that 100 grand, it was for all new server, some laptops and whatnot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I think it was the MDTs too. It was all the computers.
yeah, it didn't
When they-
spell out that whole thing.
When they
Oh.
did that, Paul, the portion of that we provided was, we provided the servers, we provided the licensing. They did a pretty big overhaul of servers at that point in time, because they did a new exchange server as well as an additional app server, et cetera. We provided 15 workstations and all the peripherals that went with that. We provided, I don't know that we provided the station Cradle points at that time. I think they were either done earlier. Well, I want to say they were done earlier because they're older. And then there were also some apparatus Cradle points that we
Yeah.
provided throughout that as well. So we still didn't total that, but that was the portion that we.
Okay,
I think it was the third monitor that threw it over the top.
the third monitor, that's right, all the third monitors, yeah. Yeah.
So we all have business in front of us for $20,609.
I make a motion to approve this for
I-
payment,
I second it.
for
Okay.
release the dollars to be able to have the fire
Yeah.
department pay him over time
Something
that
we
he
need.
invoices us.
Okay, so I have a motion by Oliver and a second by Miller to approve a expenditure of $20,609. It's on the floor, open for discussion.
You see anything in there, Matt, that throws up anything for you? I mean, you're the most qualified in the room here besides Carrie.
Is this gonna get us, just so I understand 100%, is it gonna get us everything we wanted to accomplish with our budgeted amount? That's correct.
There could be a little roadblock bump, excuse me, that we might have, an extra $800 or something. I mean, he just made an estimate of the labor. It could end up coming in a few hours more.
It's pretty damn reasonable from what I see.
Okay.
And I understand this upgrade is clear through for next year.
2021, 22.
Can I get some help on the answer to that?
It was budgeted for the budgets of 21, 22, yes.
Yeah, and that's actually to throw in as well too. All the connectivity components are inclusive of 3-year maintenance agreements to take them out, hardware protection wise, if you will, for the next 3 years.
Okay.
I do want to say, and I don't know if I'm out of place here or whatever, but, when you're talking about the overall budget, we had discussed several different things, with regards to what, IT expenditures over the next year. So I don't know, what else is included in that. I have provided bids for, workstations, for laptops, for Cradle Points, et cetera. So, but this was the meat and potato stuff that we talked about.
This is one where Steve Abel and you and I sat in the
Yeah,
office.
these
to
two right
discuss.
here.
You were, wasn't there one meeting?
Ken, you were
on?
there.
Yeah.
These were the ones that I had to come up with Clackamas announcing that they wanted to get their space back.
Yeah.
And then CCOM announcing, oh, by the way, we want to pull the firewall out. It's like, okay. So this is where everything came from.
Okay. Any further questions from the directors? If no, I'm going to call for the question. Director Day,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
McAdoo?
Yes.
And yes from Silva. Unanimously, it passes. B2, did everybody get a chance to look at the bills?
You look at the wrong
No,
one
you're looking
again.
at the wrong one.
Oh, again. I should just throw this one away.
You want to take a paper airplane, fly to the back of the room. Want to borrow mine?
No, she just replaced it, so.
Apparently that was wasted.
Maintenance contract, B2.
So where we're at with that, I reached out per your advice, Matthew, to talk to Clackamas, talk to Bill. The contract was supposed to have been revised to put in what we're actually getting for that money. I emailed you guys the revised contract. It's the same as the one we got before. So I've sent an email back out to him, said, hey, is this a mistake? Is it not? I know I had conversation with Dieters and Brown, and they're very apprehensive about putting anything in there like that for what we're getting for it, for how many hours, of travel and all that stuff. So I believe that we need to at least get 3 bids, and we need to look and shop. I reached out to Tannen and talked to the owner, David Tannen, this week. They're in Battleground. He said, well, first off, he goes, we don't do any work over an hour and a half away. Let me see, oh, wait, you guys are 66 minutes away. So that's feasible. I've talked to Hughes, John's talked to Hughes. Him and I have been meeting, trying to get our schedules matched up so we can actually go see these places. The advantage that I see with Clackamas is that Clackamas stocks parts. That is an advantage. I was down getting some parts for my own personal truck at Fleet Pride, and just out of the blue, I asked him, do you have brake shoes for Pierce and brake drums for Pierce fire engine? And he goes, yes, we do. So I asked Alan to send me the VIN number and everything off of the truck that we had to repair so that I could get with Mike at Fleet Pride and say, okay, tell me how much a set of shoes and drums cost for this, just so he could prove that he did actually have and didn't overspeak. I have not got that back from Alan yet. So, and I haven't felt comfortable just walking into the fire department, opening doors, taking pictures of VIN numbers and stuff. So it's, I talked to Chief, and Chief said that he has a verbal agreement with Hughes right now to take care of our needs in the short term. No, with Hughes.
Oh, with Hughes also?
Yeah, with Hughes.
Says we do have with Clackamas also.
Okay. He told me
To help us
Hughes. Hughes came up and repaired that truck, and I saw the bill. The Hughes bill was just over $1,000. I was absolutely shocked. I thought it was going to be a heck of a lot more than that. They sent a guy from Springfield. He'd already been at his 40 hours for the week, and it was just under $1,100. So I was shocked. I mean, that's expensive for a set of brakes and drums on a single axle, but
We got the parts and clock.
yeah, we got the parts and
But that
fibers.
didn't
Now, I have not seen the parts bill yet. I don't know how much that is. The way that I look at this and with discussions I've had, if we have a rig go down like that rig did, I'm told we have 3 more as backups. So that's what I'm told. So this is where my lack of fire service shoots me in the foot. Can we afford to have 25% of our engine down? And for how long? So that's the question that I have to ask, as we go through this process. We did get the airport engine, which they are using it a lot more than I thought they would. But yeah, so how important is it? I mean, we're a small fleet, 4, and we have 1 go down, that's 25%. And I'm a percentage guy, 25 is pretty high. But then we're looking at 1. So anyway.
Well, does Clackamas, as part of their agreements, if they grab one and needs to be serviced, don't they give us a loaner during the period?
I did not see
I
anything
don't,
in there
I
for
don't think
that.
they
No.
would. I don't think they would. No.
Okay.
No. I would be absolutely shocked if we would be able to we can't get that service from anybody else.
I think the advantage of Clackamas, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong. For general maintenance, they're gonna come and get our rig and take it.
No,
Or do
actually,
we have to
they're
be the
gonna,
one
no,
shoveling?
they're gonna do some of it here
Okay.
That's what they did before, I think.
I seen something that there's 40 hours of road time in there in that contract.
Maintenance
So-
contract.
Yes. It's not in the contract we have, but something else I seen had that in there. So,
I just know that we need to have something reliability because like what you say, 25%, that's a huge impact.
it is,
And-
but then it comes back to 1 rig though. That's
Right,
that stinks, with ours being a small department. So, yeah, I've in business have always been a pay-as-you-go type guy, but you need to make sure you get the service. This is different when we're talking about vehicles that are protecting our community. That is different. It's
Right.
not a machining center down that we can just tell the customer we're late on your parts. Well, we can't tell the customer we're going to be late on getting there to put your fire out because our rig is down. So
Right.
I think that, let me ask Ian, I know you just got in. Was it Hughes that you said you have an agreement with or Clackamas for?
Clackamas.
Clackamas, okay, I thought, I misspoke, I thought it
Yeah,
was Hughes.
Clackamas for emergency repairs only. All other maintenance and everything, the general maintenance and stuff like that, but we don't, but we're in a good spot with all that.
How much longer do you feel we can get by with the agreement you have with them?
When I talked to Chief Brown, I told him up to a maximum of 3 months.
Okay.
Because we need to have our ducks in a row by then. If we can drag it out longer, than that, there's something
Perfect.
wrong.
That gives us time to do the due diligence and to go out and see these other places, John, and report back. But like I said, I look at Clackamas, there's two things that Clackamas has going for it. One is location.
Right.
Another is they stock some parts. But if that other place stocks the parts, then that kind of takes the pressure off.
Where's
of it.
that place at?
Columbia Boulevard.
Okay.
So they're local.
But then you got Battleground for a repair place.
Yes.
That's a long way.
And they
away.
said that they do everything on site except for a major, like a transmission rebuild. or
Oh, so
engine
they'll come
rebuild.
out and do a lube
Oh,
oil filter out
absolutely,
here
yeah.
on our
And he
site. Oh,
said,
shit, okay.
We don't want to come out there and just do one.
Okay.
Let's target, what in your
Agree.
fleet needs to be done and, because we're paying road time also. And so it's like, are we gonna amortize one oil change through one rig or are we gonna come out there and do 3? We amortize that with road time is a better value.
Okay.
So
What about repairs, electronic repairs, stuff like that?
they said they take care of all that.
Okay.
So anyway, I talked to the owner.
So Hughes is. the
Actually,
same-
Chief Ian's the one that turned me on to Canada. And you used him at Forest Grove.
Yeah, we used them at Forest Grove. We're kind of in the same situation at the time and so the company officer at the time that was in charge of maintenance actually found them and we used them quite a bit. I don't think we had a contract or anything, and it was just
Yeah,
went, but.
He said he does not like doing contracts.
But we also were kind of scattered, so we had them do repairs. We had, trying to think of the other name of the other company in Hillsborough that did stuff. Either way, we had experience with them, so.
It's a little bit frustrating because I've checked with other departments close to us. They're not using EVTs. You know, they're having their rigs repaired by people that do not have the
Yeah.
EVT cert.
Colton uses one of their volunteers.
Yeah, and we just can't do that. It's too much liability.
Right.
I wouldn't even suppose that.
So you're the chief, and at the end of the day, you know, we turn to you, we hire you to make sure that rigs get out that door. So, you know, I hate to like throw something in your lap, but I would like you, yeah, I would like you to weigh in on this contract with Clackamas Fire District. I mean, what is going to make us, I'm like, long-term, I'm totally for bidding and so on, but I want to make sure that there's continuity going on, that we're not putting the citizens at harm or the department where we can't get rigs out the door.
Right. And because of our size, it's not like we got a big fleet, right? We've got kind of a limited number of apparatus. So when one engine goes down, we're in a better spot now with the engine we got from the airport. So we have a backup there where we didn't have that a few weeks ago. But when you're down to one, then pretty soon the other one breaks and you're down to two because they always come in droves or down to one. So my opinion of it is if I had my way, I would go with the contract with Clackamas. I'd like to see a few changes made to that as we go. Tannen was a good outfit up in Battleground, but they're in Battleground, they're farther away. I think Hughes could service us also, but again, we're talking about distance. All these other places we're logistically, we're kind of battling a little bit with trying to get equipment there and back, track things down, that sort of stuff. If I'm looking for the easy way out, it's Clackamas.
So I'm just gonna say this. I probably shouldn't say it. Ken knows what I'm talking about because him and I have discussed it. I got what we were paying for by somebody at Clackamas. He sent it to me. I'm not gonna say who it is. If they would put that in this contract, I can get behind it 100%.
Okay, then I ask you, why don't we do this? Because I think it is such an important thing that it's going to take some long-term planning, from my opinion. You all weigh in, but I think I would put it on you and say, Director Miller, would you go back to them and tell them to put it in? Because they have a board meeting. We had our interagency committee meeting. They have to make a decision this Monday because of the process of hiring their people.
This Monday.
They're at their board meeting, yes. So you would almost have to be willing to go there. And they said that they'd be willing to work with language. If it's a language thing, they'd be willing to sit down and do that. And then they would adopt it at their Monday meeting so that we would have continuity. But if they don't hire, they're not going to be able to keep up because they're doing Hoodland, they're doing Sandy, and they're doing their own fleet.
They're waiting for us to decide to hire a full-time
And
employee.
again, when I talked to Chief Brown the other day after the meeting that we had,
Okay,
we talked about, they're hiring another position so they can take on the added workload of Estacada. But it's not that position entirely for Estacada. We're paying for a piece of that. And it's obviously the majority because we would anticipate the majority of the work would go that way, but they're also using that position for other things that they have going on at Clackamas. So I guess the point of that is don't feel like we're just hiring a Clackamas person just for Estacada stuff. You know what I mean?
So I will reach out to Bill Bischoff tomorrow morning and I'll try and go down and meet him personally tomorrow.
Paul, what did you say that you would feel more comfortable
I'll
going
call
into this?
So the report that I seen.
Sorry, John, I didn't see you.
The report that I seen broke every one of our apparatus down by how many hours they're gonna, for the dollars we spend, they're gonna give us 40 hours of travel time a year. They're gonna spend X amount of time on E330, all our brush rigs, everything, for the apparatuses we have. So there was an accountability of what we're getting for the dollars that we're approving to spend. In the contracts that we've gotten, there is nothing in there. And I told Bill, if you can get that in there, I don't see a problem at all with the board approving it. And he said, no problem, I'll get it in there. He sent me that last contract when I emailed out to everybody and it's not there.
I think there's other issues with this contract that
There is some other ones, yes, but that's the lawyerese and the protectionism for Clackamas. What bugs you about it?
well,
I think 6 years is a long time.
Well, the other,
I mean, and I know they say they might be hiring somebody, but
Yeah.
usually there's a certain amount of years with options to extend. They talk about, overtime rates, like what are their billable time rates?
it's 150 an hour,
What's that?
150 an hour,
It's not specified. Their overtime rates or the regular?
they're
rates?
regular rates.
The regular rates. So is it time and a half? Is it double time?
They don't really say.
The parts and service, I see that, but
And the
it
5%
doesn't-
markup
it
on
doesn't- It
parts
doesn't
is,
specify it. When I read this, it's like, okay, yeah, we're gonna agree to work on your stuff, but if it's beyond our scope, then we're gonna farm it out and you're still gonna pay for it, which could be potentially a lot. I agree with you. It's not even saying what they're gonna do.
there's another thing in here, the other paperwork I have. And the reason why I didn't share that is I'm not sure I'm supposed to have it. There's pump tests in there. There's nothing said in here about pump tests.
An annual NFPA required pump test.
Yeah. I don't see anything in this contract about that. But on the one,
Want me to do it for you now?
so, yeah, I mean, it's, and the other thing too, that I kind of think about too, is that we have that potential of getting that $2 million grant from Salem. I'm not going to count on it. All I'm saying is it could be coming. If that's the case, we're gonna get new apparatus. Well, usually on a new piece of equipment, the maintenance costs go down. We'll be stuck into a 6-month contract. I'm sure we can renegotiate that contract, but at that time, we're already signed into a contract. When we go for renegotiation, well, we don't exactly have the upper hand on that because we're already in a contract with them. So,
So Director McAdoo.
I want to go back to use equipment. One thing I have a concern, I didn't like that 6-year contract. And that figure they threw out there, how do we know we'll spend that much? Or would we spend more? But anyhow, let's go back to use. I talked to use quite a bit and I shared that with you.
Yep.
That failure of use coming out of Springfield was a fluke. And they said they'd guarantee everybody would come out of Portland from now on.
Okay.
And if you want to, they do have some contracts. Eugene, Springfield, they got Albany, I think they had. But, and also they give us a credit for mileage coming back from
yeah.
running out of Springfield.
Okay.
Because they weren't manned up there. So they give us a credit for
Yeah,
that.
that I was,
But gee, did Jim Burke ever call you? I told him to call you.
From
Use.
Hughes, no, I haven't heard. Hughes at all.
Okay. He wants to come and meet with you. And maybe it was waiting for this meeting.
well,
But we want to we're going to go over hopefully Monday. I don't know what your schedule, Monday or Tuesday next.
yeah,
week.
I think I'm waiting for the part to come in that I need to repair a machine, but this is very important. We need to get this done.
Yeah.
Because here we are now. Matthew just said that they have to have an answer Monday for their board meeting.
Yeah.
And so, but the thing is, that's why I asked Ian what we can get by with Clackamas. So,
I prefer myself to postpone this one more month because I don't like this 6-year contract. And I'd like to break a little more breakdown on the cost.
So why don't we do this? Would you be happy if you do the communication part and see if you can't get that contract to reflect what you were talking?
Okay.
And then maybe it's more of comparing apples and apples.
well,
You know,
and that's the thing. That's a good point. That's the thing I've thought about. Okay, if we get that contract from Clackamas that has all that in there, that would make me feel better. We're not going to get that from Tannen or Hughes.
Right.
That's going to be a pay as we go thing. So the
What's
main
the advantage of the contract
with,
compared to Hughes or Tanner?
it's my understanding that with a contract with Clackamas, it is buying us a spot in their shop for emergency breakdowns. It's kind of like when the brake drum split. So we had 3 other backups we could run. I personally questioned, why did we have to jump on it right now and bring a guy from Springfield? Why couldn't we wait until Monday? To where we didn't have, to? But that's not my fault.
Well, we technically have one because we really haven't put the green machine in service yet. So we kind of were
Okay.
the gun and pushing that one ahead because of that at the time. And with the uncertainty of, are we going to get it repaired or not?
Yeah,
So that was the purpose behind making it happen.
Yeah.
that's just where it goes back to, how
So-
many rigs we have in reserve.
Let's go the other way here a little bit. Say that the one that had the brake drum problem loses an engine 6 months from now. Clackamas is not gonna get that repaired in 24 hours. It could be 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
I think that's gonna go back to that part where they talk about having to farm that out to another.
Well, yes, okay, so
Sure.
what I'm saying is now we're still down roughly the 25% in apparatus. What are we gonna do in that case?
That's,
So-
all bets are off,
So
basically.
what I'm getting at is if we can afford to have a rig down for 4 weeks with a total engine rebuild, how come we couldn't have one down for 3 days for brakes or whatever?
Like I said, technically at the time, we were down to one.
Yeah. Okay.
So we didn't have a reserve. We were
Okay.
rushing to put the one into a reserve status so that we did have the backup.
So
We would have, like I said, we didn't know if it was gonna be Monday, today,
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
So
yeah.
we were just in that precarious.
It's
spot.
just a thought process was all. I wasn't judging what was
No, no, no.
done.
I'm already shutting down what some are considering emergency repairs because I'm getting little stuff that really isn't an emergency. till
Yeah,
late, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
So I'm already on top of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
so what if we pay as we go for a year and see how much money we spend?
I don't think there was any guarantee on timing of repairs or anything.
This was a
like that. They said-
verbal, this was a, yeah. There is no guarantee on the repairs.
And there's no service warrant, there's no warranty on their work. either.
No, but you're not gonna get that really on anything, on anybody, I don't believe. So,
If we want to do it right, and you guys might have talked about it already, but we really should have done a request for proposals. This is what we want, this is what we're looking for. We send it out to all these different
Yeah.
companies and then this is what we get
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
But we could still go down that path if that's where we're at.
well, that's where we have an issue with Hughes and Tannen. They're not gonna give you any kind of contract. You're asking more of a contract detail type thing, and
They will give a contract.
they'll write up something, but I don't feel it'd be apples and apples.
They
So
got kind of a universal
Yeah.
contract you can look
Yeah.
at. And like I say, they do Eugene, Springfield,
Yep,
Albany,
yep.
there was one other, I can't remember. One other thing I wanted to throw out here, just to think about it too, for staff cars, we got Fords. For staff cars, why couldn't we run them over to Quick Lane at Suburban Ford?
Yeah.
And you can go over there, and if you hit it right, you're about an hour.
Yeah.
Maximum I've ever been is 2 hours.
Yep.
And they give them a thorough going over because
Mhm.
if they
Well,
can find something.
For $39.95?
And that's
I
the-
just wanted to throw
They're
that.
not EVT. And so
Yeah.
They basically, they
For
can
staff
change,
cars,
they can
but-
change oil, but that's about it.
Yeah, so that's the whole other thing.
If
I'd
you want to
like-
get down to it, we
Yeah.
can change oil here in the station.
Yeah, that's the one thing, I want to actually get kind of penciled out a little bit is what is EVT required to do and what is not? Obviously, you go put tires on Les Schwab, they're not EVT. Oil changes, that kind
Well-
of stuff. What else is in that scope? Changing a headlight?
Yes, it does. No, then you're getting into the electrical system, so then so basically, an EVT covers everything except for the chassis.
Okay.
So chassis meaning drivetrain, your engine block, the stuff you would get if you just bought a commercial.
Rear end.
Yeah.
Off the lot. But when you start getting into the electrical system, then you're starting to get into a whole nother world because it's an emergency vehicle.
Okay.
Fire apparatus is typically designed around that EVT spec. So
Yes.
when I say that, it's not usually the chassis, right? It's all the stuff that we put on it because
Yeah.
every fire department out there likes to have their own thing and it's all unique. So
So I want everybody to understand, how this all kind of got started was Ian had his plate really full and I talked to him and said, hey, I don't want to step on your toes, but can me and John or whatever look into this? And he gave the blessing. So what we bring back, even if the board approves it and chief says, hey, I don't like that. Well, it's not like we ramrod that down his throat. We have to, it has to be the 6 of us here, I believe, as a communication thing, not just 5 board members type thing. So,
there's different ways around this, depending on how you want to structure it. But at the same time, we've only got so many people working here too.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on right now, obviously.
yes,
I'd like to think that's going to fade away a little bit, but so far I'm not having any luck with
we get some big rain. Yeah,
that.
2 weeks into this.
Yeah, we're pretty newborn here. So, but yeah, at the time I asked Director Miller to pursue it. He came in and we had a conversation. And so he's been doing some background work on it.
It's not an easy one, in my opinion, to nail down. and that's why I feel we need to do the due diligence and look at, I agree absolutely with Matt that there's a lot of stuff in that contract that I do not like. I can understand them trying to protect themselves. I can't hold that against them. It's just whether we can stomach it or not. So
I'm just wondering if doing something like the time frame and saying the only thing we'd be willing is for you to get the language changed and we'll only do it for a year, because then we're going to start a formal RFP process to make sure that it's in line with what it really should cost. And so maybe that's an in-between fix, where if they're willing to do only a year contract and it includes the language you're looking for and gets cleaned up with some of the points that you mentioned.
So if I'm hearing you right, you're wanting me to see if I can get Clackamas to give us a year contract?
Yeah, because the chief said and I didn't think about this, but he just said in the perfect world, we should have done an RFP.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were restarting a fire department in a short period of time, so we didn't have the process. I'm just wondering if it's a in-between fix for a year, and you never know when the RFP goes out, maybe they're actually the best bid for it.
So going back to your conversation that you had with me, that one reason they're wanting to do this because they have to hire somebody. I know they're not specifically hiring somebody for us 100%.
Maybe
say
25%.
30%,
Right.
So I can't see them doing that here. So
Okay.
Yep.
I think the way forward is this. Chief said that 3 months, you'd be okay running this way for 3 months. I don't see why we can't do an RFP in 3 months.
How long does it take for you to do an RFP for?
Put one together, get it out, give them time to reply.
Okay.
6 weeks at best, so.
So 2 months,
It's gonna take
basically.
me 2 months, I think, from start to finish. Probably sounds about right, doesn't it?
Is that something that you think you can squeeze in the 2 months? We're not adding any more to you?
No, but I can.
That's a long list you got there.
Something that John and you can help him with?
But then here we go, though, we go back to the conversation you had about their boards approving this Monday or not
Yeah.
for them hiring somebody.
Well, I think what they're trying to do with that is they just did a process to hire another mechanic for what they've got going on, and they had 2 right at the top. And so they would like to retain the second one if they can, because if they don't grab them now, the chances are somebody else is going to get them. And I really feel like that's probably where it's at. So
Yeah.
if we kick the can down the road a little bit longer, maybe they're just going to have to go out and do another process or look further down their list. I don't know. But I'm making some assumptions there.
But
I don't want that Monday meeting to make us rush into the.
Right.
yeah, I
I
definitely
totally
feel for
agree.
a community, we need to
totally
make sure
agree.
that we make
If they
the
have
right
to,
pathway forward.
if they have to wait to hire somebody 6 months from now or 3 months from now, then that's what they have to do. That's their business.
So are we currently under contract for fleet services? with them?
Nope.
Zero.
They're helping out.
The emergency piece is more or less a handshake agreement. Really, Monday, they could tell me to go pound sand.
So-
somewhere else, but-
Currently, they're coming in, doing our maintenance and stuff like that, and then just feel like it's $150 an hour without us paying the $6,000.
Yeah, if we have to have it type of thing.
They were kind of caught up on our equipment before they left. They'd pretty much been caught up on maintenance, so,
Right.
yeah. So this
I don't think their
emergency,
intentions are bad, I just think the agreement's horrible.
Yeah, I agree. So where do we proceed from here? Do you want me to reach out to Bill tomorrow and get with him and say, can you get this thrown in there, or we want to wait for the RFPs?
I think you should communicate with them and state there are some concern with some of your fellow directors on things like the time
Well,
frame,
Wait,
things like that, because they should get another opportunity. If we're doing an official RFP, then they should know what are some of the red flags that were not really appeasing us. And then you guys should go to Hughes and get that, let them know that we're going to do an RFP and get something out. And you say we can be okay for the next 3 months.
Yeah, I think we're okay using Clackamas for the next, we're on less than 3 months now, but if that time frame ran out, then we're looking at just going to look at Hughes or Canada, whoever will come out and help us. Right, is what it comes down to.
So just so I have some historical knowledge, what did we do 2 years ago?
Use.
Okay. And how did that work? How did that work for us?
pay as you go,
How did,
I think it was, yeah.
pay as you go.
how did,
And I think we did Milwaukee Works. Remember that one year, that like 2-year contract where we used Milwaukee and then we went back to Hughes? Something like that in between?
There was something like that. We decided we'd stay with you.
Hughes right after we,
Someone didn't go right.
Right.
there.
So I know the discussion with Ken, and I asked about pump tests, and he said, yes, we do that.
Oh, good.
So-
Hughes does pump test too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they do small vehicles too.
So here's something that you might want to do is do a records request at those 2 fire departments down south for their contract with Hughes. Public information, isn't it?
Which
Which
would
two
probably give us
comes
that.
We'll give them, yeah, or whatever, get a copy of how they do a contract with the municipality. Okay, let's do that. Let's at least look at how they
Jim
do it.
Burke's been calling me and I told him he has to meet with the chief.
Yeah,
You know me, everybody calls me and I said, well, I can't answer that yet.
Right.
But we had a long.
I think the
talk.
cleanest way to do this, put together an RFP,
I
put
agree,
it out there.
I agree.
Because it's such a big dollar amount for
Yes.
what our district is, and that's really what we should have done with this at the beginning.
Yep.
Get up into those, 5 figures and beyond. I mean, that's really what we should be doing.
I hate to add that load to you, but I agree with you 100%. That is a process that we should follow. We should do an RFP, and we Clackamas or Hughes until we can pick an RFP we want to go with and decide.
The only thing I don't want to see happen is that we keep pushing it to the next
No,
meeting and the next
no,
meeting.
I know.
That's going to make my life a
Yes.
little more difficult. So, yeah.
so
So if you
I,
want me to, chief, I'll call you. I got Jim Burke, his dad was fire chief here for years and he retired from Albany, I believe. And he works for you. So if you people want me to, I'll call him in the morning. I'll get copies of the contract.
No, I think the way we should really go here is start the process from the beginning. Chief suggested an RFP. I think he puts together that, and then we submit it to Hughes, Tannen, and Clackamas. And we get back what we get back, and we review it and see how we feel about it.
I think the contract, looking at their contract is just for informational purposes.
Yeah.
How they do a contract.
yeah, I think that would be okay. Yeah.
Okay,
So we can put it next to
Okay.
Clackamas and
Okay.
see what,
Yeah, well, that might even help the chief write the RFP
Yeah,
if you
okay.
forget one item.
yeah.
I probably have an RFP or two I can.
Okay.
wait.
Okay.
you just gotta change some years and.
Change the names, correct the names.
Yeah, yeah.
Did Clackamas talk at all about any of the like maintenance records or service records that keep or mileage or fuel logs or anything? I mean, there's a lot of administrative.
That is-
Fuel logs would be on us.
Yeah.
Yeah, the maintenance records, they should have, and actually I already put that request in to get those records.
Yeah,
I know we use software for all of our fuel stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be something you put in RFP, access to a software or something like that. But
I think it would be also on a scheduled maintenance, so you'd be able to look at dates and times that it
Right.
goes in.
Right, because it's either gonna mean mileage or it's gonna mean time for maintenance, one or the other, and that's when we're gonna bring it in and do it, so. Most of our stuff's gonna be time rather than mileage.
So I think because it is quite a sum of money, I think this really should give some direction to the chief for the RFP and maybe a motion, just so that he has a clear understanding and it's transparent. So I would like to entertain a motion for an RFP for.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Okay, so you're making the motion?
Make a motion that the chief is to write an RFP for maintenance of our apparatus.
Okay, I have a motion by Miller, a second by Director McAdoo. Open for discussion.
Timeline.
60 days.
Well, you're gonna want to see the RFP. I'm
Yeah.
assuming
So when do you,
before I send it out.
what's the time frame that you need?
So you don't necessarily need to review the RFP as a group. I mean, I could send that out to you
Yep.
individually
Yep.
for review and get comment
Yeah,
feedback.
totally.
And then we can send it out from there, right?
Right,
So 2 weeks. 2 weeks
Okay.
for me to put it together.
If you
And
can
then
do it.
if I can hear back from each one of you in fairly short order after that,
That
a
day.
matter of days or something.
Day.
24 hours.
what about sharing the RFP with a professional that in the business? I mean, that wouldn't be bidding on it or something. that maybe help us.
well, and you know people from the department, I mean, you're coming with a wealth of info
Yeah,
as a chief at other
We're just gonna put In
departments.
that RFP, the scope of work that we want done, that we want them.
This is
to
what we want.
Take
out
care
of
of
this.
for us.
And it's a
Yes.
proposal because if they don't offer this, but they offer this, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And then, of course, all the legal
Yep.
language that goes with it.
Yep.
So before coming here, Columbia River, we ran a shop there.
Yeah.
So we had mechanics and lifts and everything else going on. And we ran contracts with other agencies. So I can get some of that information if I don't already have it easily enough. And I think that would probably be a good third party for reference because they're far enough away that I doubt they were gonna.
I mean,
on this, but-
I view this as kind of like purchasing an insurance policy is what it is. It's gonna ensure that we're gonna have our rigs ready to go out the door. And so hopefully in a timely
I
manner.
say 2 weeks, it may be faster than that. If I run into some roadblocks
When
or
you said
something, I'll let
6
you know.
weeks, then you came back with 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, yeah.
Well, from start to
Yeah,
finish,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
type of thing.
yeah.
I might be able to get it out quicker just depending on what's going on here. And
And we understand that, you know, what's going on, how dry it is and
yeah, there's always that too.
things happen, you know.
But working on an RFP will put you to sleep. So that's good late night work.
Okay. So I have a motion on the floor, open for any more discussion. If not, I'm going to call for the question. Director McAdoo,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
Day,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
and Silva is yes. I would like to also maybe just in the back of your mind, because this is such an urgent thing, consider also whoever is the board chair at that time to do a special meeting if necessary to kind of make sure that we get that going. So for decision making.
I'm thinking that if I took the full 2 weeks, we put it out there. I mean, typically you'd want 30 days
For people.
for them to respond. I mean, we could say 2 weeks, but I don't feel like we're going to get a good response with that. So
No.
we'd probably be looking at an in-between special meeting, late August-ish, something like
Yeah,
that.
just, and I think Director McAdoo has a lot of trips and different things, responsibilities in the summer. So check with him first on dates.
Sure.
Well, you have a lot going on.
I'm getting burned out.
You're my inspiration, John. I thought I was semi-retired, but I'm really not.
Every day that he wakes up, not
Work.
looking at roots is good.
The community finds out you're retired. Look
Yeah, I
out.
know. Yeah.
We'll just wait for Director Day to get back. Did you find the brush fire up there?
I could find a smell, but I couldn't find fire.
Oh, really?
I passed it off to Forest Service and they're gonna have to go looking for it.
Where was it at exactly?
It's Dry Creek, at least that's what shows on my map. It's up there on the Tumalo Mountain Road,
Yeah.
Oh, Squaw
go
Mountain.
way up in there, yeah.
You can't say that anymore.
It's historical. Well, I didn't tell you about the wildfires, right? So Paul from Arizona, we're sitting there talking, the other guy that came in September, he goes, where is this Squaw Mountain Road? He says, it's here on my map, but I can't find it anywhere. And I said, they renamed it Tumalo. He goes, you wouldn't believe how many times that burns us.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that we,
I bet.
Right.
you know,
So question, Chief, real quick.
Yeah.
We had two different calls going on, one on
Yeah.
Springwater and one up Missy, I thought we did.
Yeah.
Because the other one was a.
the one was a burn,
latitude.
burn pile at rekindled.
Yeah, we've actually had 2 of those today now.
I mean, really, it's been,
Yeah.
well, and I think it's probably always gone on. It's just everybody's so hypersensitive about how dry it is. Now it's, you know, call everything.
Yeah, they're calling them in and, I mean, those are the things we want to jump on because they're gonna come back and bite us. in
Yes,
September,
I agree.
Did you call Colton to come help on the Springwater?
I wasn't on Springwater.
Oh, okay.
Chief Lashbrook was over there
Okay.
dealing with that one, which is why I ended up going
Yeah.
up on the smoke again.
Yeah, that burn up on Springwater, they burnt that for that widow woman there. About 3 months ago, cleaned it up, burned it up, and it's
Took off,
out.
yeah,
All of a sudden,
took off.
Yeah.
Okay. So for B3, did everybody get a chance to look at the bills?
Yes.
List.
Here, I got 2, so maybe that explains it.
Oh, here they are.
Okay.
Never mind.
So the reimbursements, that's gonna settle down. I mean, that was for the breakfast and the graduation and everything, correct?
Yeah, there were a whole lot of reimbursements as a result of promises made prior to me.
Yes.
And so cleaning up these different financial issues where we have a whole lot of this and a whole lot of that. Just put something together for the crews today as far as purchase order process and all that kind of stuff. So we should be getting in a little better place with all that as far as process and order goes.
This is just restart
Right.
chaos a little bit. I understand.
A whole lot.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't want to completely throw it that bad, but yeah. No, I agree.
Okay. Cool.
I
So-
have one question on it. I'm okay with it, but what's Reach Local Inc.? What's that?
Reach Local Inc.
Yeah.
That's our new website people.
Oh,
Website. Okay.
okay.
So what's the Clackamas County elections bill for?
That's for the
We
election.
had elections this
All
year.
right. Yeah.
So you could be here.
Matt,
Not me,
Oh,
Matt and I.
these guys.
that's right.
I was already.
Take it out of our pay.
I heard we're getting a raise.
Bills as
We're
presented.
gonna double our salary.
Yeah. That's right.
I made a motion and we pay the bills as presented.
So I have a motion on the floor from Director McAdoo. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Director Miller. Motion on the floor, open for discussion. None. I'm going to call for the question. Director Day,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Oliver,
Yes.
McAdoo,
Yes.
Silva is yes. Okay. Moving along, did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from June 17th, regular board meeting?
Yep.
Yeah, they look okay to me.
Good.
Okay, so by consensus, are we all agreeing for it to be signed as written?
Yes.
Okay, then we'll go down to B5. Everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the June 28th special board meeting. Do we have a consensus that it's good as written?
Yes.
Okay, we'll get those signed. Okay, one item that came in is the audit proposal engagement. Basically an engagement contract with us to conduct the audit. So it does need a action item from this board. It is basically just the language that's written by lawyers that
I
explains it out.
have questions not so much about this, but as our audit process, how is that gonna work with Clackamas having part of it? Excuse me, and then us having from March 1st. So we have stuff from Clackamas that, in my opinion, is not in very good order.
Oh, the QuickBooks, the old QuickBooks?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
how are we
I
gonna
don't know
move
how
forward
that's-
with that?
I don't know how that's gonna.
Those auditors know how to work through that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're
Well, the
gonna
one-
come back and tell us what we need or don't need.
The one thing that I want to be adamant about is that, hey, we were March 1st. to
Well,
this point,
they'll see that,
June
yeah.
30th, yeah. So I don't know if there's going to be any more incurring costs with anything else that is March 1st and back over this $8,500.
Or should Clackamas help pay for this?
You know what? That's a good point because
Well,
part of
because it falls into, it has to be done and submitted. This is for this fiscal year, so.
For 2021?
well, you know what? We still were a fire district by
Yes.
name, correct?
Correct.
So
No,
we were
that's
just
right.
under
So
contract with services.
They were
with
just, they were
Yeah.
a vendor, so they
Yeah,
really
yeah,
can't make
yeah,
them pay
yeah. So
for
we're,
it.
yeah,
Anyway,
Did they do the audit last year
Yes.
yes.
for Estacada under
You know what?
Clackamas or
They
how did
did,
that?
didn't they? Well, you know, I can't say, but I do remember the
They had-
auditor
they had-
saying,
Well, we hired the auditor last
Yeah,
year.
we use
Okay.
the same one.
We used the
Okay.
same one. So
Well,
they were just working with Clackamas staff.
Right,
to
if
put
it's
it
on a
together.
contract, so it would have
Yeah.
been still, yeah.
So it's still our contract, yeah. So it really doesn't.
I remember
change
making
anything.
a statement as to how bad the QuickBooks.
So they
was.
may need to work with Clackamas on what happened prior to March 1st.
Yes.
To make everything work.
Pretty much
Christina-
request information.
Christina Day's not there anymore. She's retired, so good luck with all that for them.
Did they still have copies of all that or
Oh,
did we
yeah,
get
they
everything
matter.
back?
I don't know. Better have copies.
I think that this is gonna get.
I think it's gonna be messy.
Convoluted,
I
yeah,
think it's gonna be a messy deal.
yeah.
Well, I
What do
think
we do?
for Estacada, I think it's fairly simple.
It is.
Yes, it is.
Because,
It is.
well, even for the pre-March one, because you were giving them a chunk of money each month,
Yeah.
And they provided,
they had to do the rest.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, but there was a bunch of add-ons in there.
But that should fall on them, not
Yeah,
Right.
this side of it.
Yeah.
And if,
there was a
you
bunch
know,
of add-ons in there, though.
But I know that when I went to pick up all the paperwork from Clackamas, it was in a cardboard box and she ran it out of a cardboard box for the whole time she was running Estacada Fire. So I'm not totally convinced that they've got everything stored away in their part.
I'm keeping you far away. You're not allowed to talk to the auditor when he comes.
Why?
You are not sharing that with him.
Okay, that's true.
And I can
That's a good one.
understand, they were under an 18-month contract. Not sure whether this was gonna go through. So why take everything out of the box and put it in the file?
Well, I think
Well,
that's,
you
that
still
might
need
be
to run
it,
it
John.
professional.
I think there's some truth to that.
I'm pulling it straight.
So,
Everybody thought a merger was gonna go through, so she's probably just shoestringing it until the merger, and it didn't happen.
Just kidding.
so I'd like to make a motion that we go into contract with Kuntz Associates Certified Public Accountants. So I have a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
A motion on the floor by Silva, second by Director Oliver. On the floor for open for discussion.
For your cost on that is $8,500.
Yes, $8,500. I'll amend that to state that amount. If none, I'm going to call for the question. So Director McAdoo,
Yes.
Director Oliver,
Yes.
Director Day,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
and Silva's a yes. Okay. Done. B7, we have, so basically, Cheryl was working with the auditor, or the county on our resolution 21-02. The way we wrote it, the county was not happy with it, even though the information is not changing. It's in a different format, and this is the format that they want. So I would like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 21-02 revised resolution adopting the 2021-2022 budget, appropriating funds and imposing and categorizing taxes. It is for a total amount of 3 million. No, excuse me. Do I have to state all these numbers?
No, 5 million.
I may agree.
You can read it fully, or you can just summarize the top.
Which I did, or do I need to go a little
The
bit more?
total adopted budget, you can read that.
Total appropriated all funds is $3,977,026. Unappropriated ending balance, $1,400,000. Total adopted budget, $5,377,026. So I have a motion to revise resolution 21-02 by Silva. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Second by Director Miller. Both. Motion on the floor, open for discussion. If none, I'm going to call for the question. Director Oliver,
Yes.
Director Day,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director McAdoo,
Yes.
and Silva is a yes. Right. Okay, and then I added I'm going to go with B8, our water tenders. So this is one of the things. I was asked by some of the public that have pools that are empty that they offered up, and they haven't even filled this year because they're not swimming. And they offered it up during the wildfires in Eagle Creek and all over. Matter of fact, Mike Platts even recommended me get one from Walmart, and I'm thinking about getting it, not to swim in it, but just to have it as a catch of like 10,000 gallons worth of water at my house, if anybody needs any, you know what I mean? So my question to you would be this. If we are going to end up with catches of stuff and equipment and stuff like that, would it be appropriate that we would be able, if somebody signed some sort of an agreement with the fire district, that we could use their pool for a water source? Would it be appropriate for us to haul the water there to fill it up? I personally think it makes total sense. If somebody's going to offer up in a wildfire or any fire, and we had a map layered where there's water closer versus coming all the way down to a hydrant, why wouldn't we use that? And if we offer something, they have to offer something back, which is a signed agreement that we can use it for emergencies.
Yeah, hold no harm type.
Yeah.
papers and whatnot.
Yeah.
I disagree with that. We had this years ago,
Uh-huh.
and we decided we would not fill pools. If the people are having a pool there, that's for their property and their protection. I know I used to have a swimming pool, I took it out, but you got a tender out filling a pond and there's a call, you got a tender tied up.
Well, and then there's the water from the city too. The one thing that I think we need to look at, and I've seen it, Alan found it, is all of our draft sites around. The problem is, like the one up, I know at Sutter Creek up by me, they put the new bridge in. It's not really defined, it's overgrown, everything else. There is places to get water. When we were up at Falls Creek and Michaels, there's numerous ponds up there. My truck doesn't draft, so I had to come back to town. Yeah, I don't know. It's for protection of them also. I don't think we want to get into filling pools.
Are you saying that if they say we can fill their pools, just double clarify, or they have a pool, they say we can draft from it,
Yes,
we would go up and fill it for them?
yes.
So when we get
I
into,
would think if personally, with talking to people in the community, I mean, all my friends are like, oh my gosh, I got a pond here, the fire department can come here anytime to do it. I got a pool. The people that I'm talking to, if we were proactive and just said, hey, let us know, sign this piece of paper, give us your address, they're gonna love us for that without having a fire station.
Okay, well, I just had a couple people ask,
we need,
so I was asked to bring it to the
we
board,
need to
so.
define something a little differently. So with the wildland training last Saturday, Jeff Liggett talked about, you need to constantly be, as a water tender driver or whatever, you need to be thinking 3 tankfuls out. So just because you got your tank full here, doesn't mean you're getting it the next time there. So you need to have 3 more somewhere else that you can go to. So you see that drop box over there? That was over the yard? That's full of water?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah, there's a drop box over the yard. He had me bring that in so he can turn it into a way to hold water. He said helicopters can dip out of it, whatever, trucks can draft out and everything else. Are you talking those pools would be available for us to fill if we needed that water, or fill?
Somebody just asked if we would be willing to fill, since they gave the water during the wildfires
Okay.
this last season. It's just an honest question from the public. That's why I'm bringing it to the board, so.
And I've had a half a dozen calls similar to that,
Yeah.
and I've told them no.
Okay.
Well, and then we gotta
And then
also,
another thing, when they set up that pool, like my swimming pool, you can draft out, you had to put one of them 150 gallon minute float pumps in. But mine was available, but you could only get 150 gallons a minute to fill up water tender.
Because you can't draft with a water tender, some can,
But,
typically not.
we discussed this issue years ago, and there's a responsibility that you're filling somebody's pool up and you have a call at the same time. You got one of your tenders half or clear empty or something, has to run and fill up at a hydrant.
well,
A good point, if you're taking water out of the city, you have to check with them. They used to charge. It wasn't
Cheap.
very, it was very cheap,
Yeah.
$2 for 1,000 gallons or something like
Yeah.
that. I don't know what it is now.
What if we didn't, what if we use that system for training, drafting out of the lake?
that's happening the 23rd and 24th with that drop box.
Right, so if we were to get an agreement with the public about, their pools or whatever. And this is water that's being supplied to their pools or whatever is drafted out of the river, and to do it under a training thing where we're teaching our people how to draft.
So if
And we're
There
going
is
to fill
another
somebody's pool.
aspect here too, vector control. You're gonna have a swimming pool full of water that's not chlorinated, and we all know what happens when water sits around with frogs and mosquitoes and everything else. So,
and if we go there, what if we would end up with 10 or 15 swimming pools? Or maybe 20, and then every year,
you know what, there's a bigger liability.
I just don't want to go.
The bigger liability is you're not supposed to have a pool unless it's fenced. How many of these pools are gonna be fenced in? So would there be any liability to the department? Well, we have hold no harm papers, so I guess there
Well,
would be.
there's a few questions to ask on this. And one is the mission of the fire district to build swimming pools.
True.
Is this the best use of our resources? And then you've got the water right issue. So if you're taking water out of the river or out of a lake or pond, Oregon's gonna have something to say about that. So we can get it out of a city system or a district system, but we're gonna have to pay for it. We're gonna get a little cranky if we just start taking it. And then the other side of that is we're competing with private industry. And that's where I think it gets real sketchy. If somebody wants to push the issue, that's pushing a line. We're a public entity, and then we're gonna provide a service that would typically be provided by private contractors. So if you were in an area and you didn't have that, then that goes away. But like if you wanted to go out and create that service for yourself and build swimming pools, you could do that, but the fire department comes along and says, oh, well, we can do it, we'll do it for less. We're on a slippery slope. Emergency services are different because obviously that's what we're here for, and there's statute and all that kind of stuff. So a few things to think about. I'm not super excited about
I
it.
don't want to go.
So we just need to tell these people that they need to build a small fire in the center of their swimming pool. We'll have to come put it out. That's how.
There's always
their
that.
pool fills.
Bring an island in the pool. but-
Yeah,
Yeah, the people I've
I
been
think,
telling
yeah.
them that we don't do that.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think it's too
We're not the
too
first-
complicated.
We're not the first fire district to go after this.
All these discussions are really good and everything.
Well,
I'm just bringing forward what people are
I know, I
asking.
know.
So, I mean, the thing of it is, I don't have a swimming pool, so,
You don't have a dog.
yeah,
But really what that,
my dogs would probably enjoy it.
They love it.
what that leaves us with is investigating our draft sites.
Yeah, I think we
Updating that.
definitely need to. I remember talking to Bresco a year or so ago and how the district decided they really didn't need these draft sites anymore, but they didn't have happened
Well,
what
it's-
happened last
yeah,
September.
That's on my to-do list
Yeah.
is to find those draft sites, establish them. And it just so happens today, a lady came in that lives on Coupland Road. And, oh, by the way, I have this behind my house. Come and see me. I'll show you where it's at, how to get into it, all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. So, I mean, I think the public knows it's out there, and specifically where she's talking about, we could use it today type of thing, So
Alan has the map on all those. I've seen it.
we probably just need to go back
The
and.
draft site map?
Yep.
'Cause I-
Another one
So
to
is there
check
a
is
process
that
where we can sign up to
camp
be a
up off
draft
of
site?
Snuffin Road
Then,
I
25
think there
years
would be,
ago,
yes.
out there in Eagle Creek. We had them put, it was so they'd have water supply if there was a fire.
Where's that?
That's camp up off of Snuffin Road. I'm trying to think of that.
Oh, the Eagle Fern Camp.
Eagle.
Yeah, they got
Yeah, they-
15,000 gallons up there.
Well,
But that's for
plus
their
we-
own fire suppression in case there's a
Plus we
fire.
could draft out of the river.
But they had a hydrant
Yeah.
set up, a draft site down there at the river,
Yeah, so
and they had a pipe went down.
Yeah.
I don't know, you should check that out.
should
It
check
was
that
over
out up there,
20
yeah.
years ago.
Not to derail the conversation, but we're getting into the operational stuff that
Yeah.
quite honestly, I'm already on. So.
Yeah.
All right. Then my next thing is a list of resources. So this was talked about before that one of the things, lots of people were offering different things, but we had talked in the past with Clackamas and everybody else about coming up with a list of resources that could be utilized in another wildfire like that, or for anything. So like who has bulldozers, who has things that we need, who falls trees to put a fire line, local people that we could activate right away.
So I'm actually already on that one as well.
That's
Okay.
operations, isn't it?
Yeah, we're into operations, but yeah, I've been getting a lot of that obviously since I've been here, and I've talked to Clackamas about how they're handling it, different things like that. I think I've tasked CERT. It's a good project for them to go out and reach out to these different people, different companies, and say, okay, what you have to offer, what are your qualifications, what's a good contact, and all that kind of stuff. So we're moving down that path here pretty quick to create a better list of availability here locally.
The only thing that concerns me about what you said was reaching out to companies. There's a lot more people that have resources that aren't a company out here.
I say
So-
companies, I don't know if I have those, or I just assume.
Yeah. But what I'm getting at is it's about relationships. I don't know what relationships the CERT members have. I met my first known CERT member at the wildland training last weekend, Dave. So I don't know what relationships they have in the community with that group of people, birds of the same feather usually flock together type thing. So I don't know what feathers the certain members have versus the people that have those assets. So,
This is a path we're just starting down.
Okay.
We'll find out. Actually, I think it was Jen King that came to me with the information and talking with her about the best way to handle it, how to do it, because it's new. I mean, this isn't something that fire departments typically have gotten into, but I am hearing more about it, specifically on the west side of fire departments that are encountering this now, where the public would like to be notified, be able to help if we need it.
so I'm impressed with Clackamas. They're actually having meetings. There's one the 20th up on Judd there, and they want those people to come in so they can have, they're gonna talk about Firewise also and everything. That to me is being very proactive with it.
Well, they learned a lot.
Yeah, talking to Chief Brown, that was a conversation we had last week about this, and kind of doing that back and forth of how to best handle it and how to put it into play. Because like I said, it's a new thing. It's not.
There's, with what I seen from September, clearly from Clackamas, there was a lack of leadership of those assets that were here. The other thing that I did not like that I seen out of the community was how much drinking was going on. And that's where I hope that if we have an event like that, we have the leadership, and that will be just, hey, you gotta hit the road, you can't be doing that, so. I'm not aware of any incidents from the drinking or anything, but that's just not the time to be drinking.
Who was drinking?
There was, I'm not saying names. There was a crew up on Springwater that was quite intoxicated. that
These
had
are
a heck of-
private people, not fire service.
Oh,
Yeah, private people, not fire service people, community people.
We run into that. Oregon Central,
Oh, yeah.
and the ones that are out there and making it obvious, well, you stick the sheriff on them, and
Yeah.
that's what it does.
Yeah.
signatures for you.
Okay.
All right. All right, so you're gonna formulate a list and have that as a thing, because that's a thing that we talked about after action. So we're coming to the next thing, B10, election of board officers. So once a year, we elect the president, the vice president, and the secretary treasurer.
I'd like to make a motion that we elect Paul Miller as president and Matt Day as vice president.
I've got a motion on the floor to make Director Miller president and Director Day vice president.
How do you feel about that, Matt?
Well, today's my first meeting and I'm very inexperienced. I feel like we've gone through a big transition, so that worries me to shake it up even more.
That's a little bit how I feel about it also. But then it's a fact, I mean, you and I are the youngest, then it's Ken, and then it's the old guys that have been here the longest, so I don't know. I'm not completely against it at all. There's part of it, there's, the one thing that I have not heard since I've been involved here of where we're gonna be in 5 years or 10 years. And I think that's a discussion that we have to have, and a goal in the next year, we should really figure out the direction of this. From the non-operational side that the chief's responsible for, but what can we do in the next 5 and 10 years to make sure that he is successful? I haven't heard, and we've been so involved in the restart, I understand that, but I think the next step is, where are we going 5 years from now? you know, so that,
We do one of those. We do that.
well, no, I'm saying since I've been here, I haven't heard any of that stuff.
Well, I think it was going a different direction with the contract of services and a merger. And we lost, I mean, we had the chief resign
Yeah.
and we had other things that occurred. So I think that we would start that process again. Every fire district does it.
Yeah.
And we talk about the vision and principles and so on. So,
I mean, the one thing that's got me concerned is that we basically put a service plan in that we had 3 years ago, and we had 1,100 building permits this year, you know, or over 1,100 building permits.
We've always did 5 and 10-year plan.
Yeah. We always did.
That's that workshop.
Yeah, so we're gonna, I mean, we've got to get this fire department going. I mean, we're right now, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
we're doing a good job, but I mean, it's day by day. So,
Okay.
I mean, there is definitely going to be a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
I mean, we always do it.
Yeah.
So the chief will carry it forward. He will have stakeholders. He will get people from the city,
Yep.
the public. It's not just us,
Yeah.
you know, we're the people that sign it and adopt it, but everybody gets involved. It's a whole community thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to get business owners, and they do work groups and, you know, especially when the chief gets his permanent deputy chief, he'll be given projects like that where they'll go out there and gather all the info. And then we normally hire somebody to help us with it,
Oh, really?
to put it together.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So Director McAdoo has a motion on the floor. Did I hear a second? It would be for Miller to be president and Matt Day to be vice president.
Adamant against it?
I mean, at least for me to be in a position like this, I think the district would be victim to my inexperience, I guess. Fire service, I mean, just starting. So for me, I mean, I think I can add a lot of value to it, but nothing but the three of you with your experience in the fire district.
So you can ask Director McAdoo if he would reconsider his motion,
Now, hold on, before we go that far.
amend it, you know?
I have the same feeling that Matt does, for myself also. But I am very adamant that we make this whole thing fly as a group. So if it wasn't me and if it wasn't Matt, who's gonna be then?
You're the group that chooses it.
Somebody else has to make another motion. And mine will die without a second. I don't have to rescind it. It'll die
Right.
without a second. If nobody seconds it. it dies. Anybody can second it.
We've got to get this figured out, that's for sure. What do you
I
think?
mean, with me, you know, and I don't even know what the vice president's responsibilities are, but I'm gonna be asking each one of you to help guide me along on
Right,
every
right.
single thing.
So why don't we consider this? Why don't we put it on the agenda for next month and get everybody to talk with each other? And then that way nobody's forced into taking it, but yet they can look at what the responsibilities are, because it's all written down, what you're responsible for. You know, and maybe it's something like, I'd rather get into secretary treasurer. I mean, and then we'll do it at the very beginning of next meeting and then turn it over.
We've always done it in the July meeting.
Right, no.
And
I-
so I threw a motion out there. If nobody seconds it, it dies.
Right. So why don't we do this? Why doesn't everybody
But,
get the responsibilities,
everybody learns it.
discuss it, and then give us a month?
The training classes, we send board of directors. to.
Yeah.
So John, the only thing different this
Once it's
time
up.
is that you have a board member for what, 2 years, and a board member for what, 3 months, and a board member for a day. That's the only different this year for July.
Yeah,
You know, so I do have, I would love to do it. I would love to serve. I do have apprehension, you know, I've been reading the SDAO stuff and whatnot. With the restart, you know, and I feel that we all get along well enough that we're not gonna let each other fail. And Matthew, I've admired when, you know, you've made a correction when somebody starts to speak, say, hey, well, wait a minute, or John, you've done the same. I mean, I feel that each of us would have each other's support. We all have the best intentions in mind. So, you
I
know,
know the first time I was voted president, quite a while back. But it's something new, but you learn as you go around. We use this standard code of parliamentary procedure, which I was reading this the last 2 weeks, and I really got re-educated on it. And then you get open meeting laws from the state attorney general's office, which we should get you two guys these books.
Yes, I was gonna bring that up about,
well,
you know, when I started, I didn't get much. John gave me some things. But officially, the district didn't do anything.
Board members.
Matt's waiting to figure out what he's supposed to get. So the district really hasn't put anything together for new board members. You know,
I got your email and I was already planning on doing the Zoom one
yeah, on that,
on the SDAO stuff.
right. And we need to talk. Matt hasn't been getting his emails till now.
Yeah.
But there's an
I'm
SDAO
gonna do the Zoom.
Yeah.
Board of Directors educational thing September 2nd down in Salem.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're interested in going,
Absolutely.
John's gonna go.
Well, it's Zoom.
No, I think it's live.
No, Salem is Zoom. They got Brookings and Ontario is live, but
The Zoom thing's fine.
Yeah, you can Zoom it. It's $25 if you Zoom it.
yeah,
All right,
And I did the
that's if you're a member. I think.
I did the SBAO February meeting Zoom,
okay,
and that went real good.
okay.
It isn't as nice as being there and actually, you know, interacting with everybody.
What time is it on the second?
It's all day,
It's just a one-day
Yeah.
class,
1 day deal, so it's an all day thing. 8 to 4:30,
but it'd be good at least for you.
and I want to do it too. John wants to do it.
Yeah.
So at least 4 of us are going to do the SDAO. thing. Huh?
I only heard from you too. but I
Right,
haven't
so-
registered you yet.
Yeah. So at least
Oh, so you're
4.
gonna take care of the registry?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Oh, I
She takes
thought
care
I
of
was
it.
gonna take care of myself.
Well, the department-
Well, we now, Carol's
Okay.
got us all up to speed on these
So-
now, so.
So I'm just going to move along to staff comments. I'll put that on the agenda for next month for election of the board officers in the beginning. Fire chief's report, Chief O'Connor.
Yeah, so I keep sending you guys weekly reports, which you may have not gotten in the last week. Kind of email issues, but each month you'll see that those weekly reports are just compiled into one, same information there. And as we keep pushing forward, things are changing rapidly by the day, obviously, as we put this thing together. But some of the highlights, we're staffing the George Station with volunteers pretty regular, like on the weekends, which is really cool. So we actually have a second staff station more often than not up there, and they've taken a few calls, move up down here when call volume looks for it. So it's been a huge plus. It's been better than what I thought it would be. Let's see, we already talked about some of this stuff. We had 3 calls back to back to back this last Wednesday, and the district managed to handle all 3 of those without having to call for a neighboring agency to come in. So we got an excellent response, which we kind of thought would happen, and we're doing really well on the response. We're definitely covering those 2 at once type of calls, which has been my goal in this, between the career staff and the volunteers and the students being able to handle that. So far, so good. Hopefully it maintains. We've gotten past paying the bills and all that kind of stuff, but we did have our first payment for our medical and dental and our MRF that came due for July and August. And at this rate, I think we're actually going to be about 100,000 less than what we budgeted for medical and dental. So very good. Looking forward to that. That'll be a boon, even if things go a different direction. There's some things that could change that would cost us more, but we're still going to be way ahead. Most places you typically are running right up against that and over, but it doesn't look like that's going to be our issue. We still have our Type 6 engine down on the bootleg fire in Southern Oregon. We've got 2 firefighters on that, and they're coming up on a week's time. They're expected to be there the full 14 days. There's talk of leaving the engine there and then swapping out with 2 new firefighters so those guys can come home and keep that engine working. it's one of those fires that's probably gonna burn until November when the snow shows up and puts it out. If you don't know, and Matt might not know, but when we send that out under the Conflagration Act, we're actually being paid for that engine from the time it leaves until 2 hours after it gets back. So we're collecting $50 an hour, 24 hours a day on that unit. So there's a source of revenue for the district as well. Great experience for our new guys.
That's what's huge. They're bringing back.
Reimburses all costs, though, too.
It does, right. It's just in that case, it's extra
Yeah,
versus what it costs us to pay out to them. So you'll see a big check for them here for their payroll, but the state reimburses that. And it's not just,
And they're paying overtime too.
right, they pay for the overtime,
People to be here.
but it's also the total package. So their benefits is included in that. And then the people that have to cover them while they're gone, the state is reimbursing for that. So we have to front it, but we do get it back. And I do have a new interim deputy chief. And I was hoping he was going to be here, but I think he's messing around over on Springwater. So, but Joe Smith is our interim deputy chief. Worked with Joe for a better part of a decade at Forest Grove. He's still working there as a shift captain, but he's kind of fitting a need for what I have here with all our new company officers and trying to work with them to get them up to speed on how to run a shift day-to-day training and things of that nature. So he's fitting in really well so far. It's only been a couple days, but
What's his schedule?
his schedule will be scattered. So he's here today. He was here Tuesday. He's going to be here Saturday. So it's almost kind of like an every other day.
Okay.
But it'll be all, once we get a little more situated, we'll have something more solid in place. So I think that's what I got for you.
Excellent. Any questions for Chief O'Connor?
No, but I think we've missed something, the civil service appointment of Kermit.
Oh, we did.
Oh, that's right. It was supposed to go on this month's agenda because we talked about it last month. Yeah. So you want, I'm entertaining any motions.
So I would make the motion to appoint Kermit as our new representative on the civil service.
So I've got a motion on the floor by Director Day and a second by Director Miller. There's a motion with a second open for discussion.
You had good conversations with him and everything, and I talked to him about it too.
what was his name again?
His name's Kermit.
Kermit Melling.
Melling.
Not sure I know.
And
Who's up, George?
he's available,
I-
go to those meetings because they're usually 11 o'clock in Sandy and he's totally available. So,
Okay.
and I told him that, if he was appointed, that I'd be happy to go to his, first meetings with him and introduce him to the group.
22nd, I believe is the same, is the first meeting.
22nd.
I'll confirm it. Somebody said it might get changed, but I think last I heard it was like the 22nd or something.
No,
MELNIG, if I remember right.
You're going to civil service chief. What's your schedule on an actual deputy chief process?
I have to take that position to
So-
civil service on the
Right.
22nd.
Civil service, okay.
And then they approve it. I can advertise it. I was looking at October is where I'm
And
at.
you're going to contact all the previous applicants that
Yeah,
applied for the
anybody else
division
can
chief
apply at that point, but
and let them know that.
right,
Because I had a call from one today and I told them that was the plan, was to
right.
contact all the old applicants and make sure they understood it was reclassified as a deputy chief.
Okay. So I have a motion on the floor. Second, it was open for discussion. I'm going to call for the question. Director Day,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director Oliver,
Yes.
Director McAdoo,
Aye.
and Silva is yes. Okay. Cheryl, do you have anything to add financial?
Just that I made up that report for you, what I could get out. I did payroll. So I did a whole half a month of payroll with our paid people. And then I paid myself and the chief. And it details it out for you, and I had to move some funds over. Director McAdoo was the one that moved the funds over. So we need $250,000 into that account. And the totals are on the sheets. And then I attached all the US bank statements I also, I learned how to do PERS reporting, so they're pulling PERS out of the account as well. I attached the first statement. They pull twice a month. They pull on the, looks like the 12th and the, well, they pull, they send the statements the 5th and the 25th, and they pulled on the 12th. So they will pull on the 10th, but it fell on the weekend. So they pull on the 10th. I'm really good at this, aren't I? They pull 5 days after, so the 5th and the 25th is when we get our statements, and the 10th and the 20th normally is when they pull out of the account. And I will do the, when we're on the monthly payroll, I do the reporting every month now. I was doing every 2 weeks. And I've attached all the payroll information, so you can see what's going on with payroll. And then I've attached the LGIP account. So you'll see where that transaction was. And then the account activity. I just, I noted the accounts that were closed. And then that went into LGIP. So we closed accounts, the reserve accounts, and then moved them over to LGIP into the general operating account. That was all done this month. And I've attached all the bank statements with the council checks as well. That is the financial report.
Any questions for Cheryl? Directors?
I've got just one question, and it's kind of for Chief and for Cheryl. Are we still having some hiccups with payroll service?
I think we're looking good at the moment, but we've had a few issues with them, specifically where they're not doing the FLSA pay. We have to actually add that in,
Okay,
which I don't care for.
I agree.
And I think that was our only road bump right now.
How are you guys doing the FLS? How are you guys adding that in?
It actually has to be manually added. So we actually have a spreadsheet for it, and then it has to be done. So I
That
want to get to a system where that's not.
brings liability.
Right.
You're relying on somebody to add it in.
So we're working on a fix for that. We were actually hoping we were going to have it done by now, but
I mean, I knew the answer, but I brought it up so that the rest of the board could hear the story too. So
your financial reports will start to look different probably by the next meeting. As we get all this information into QuickBooks, I'd much rather see a financial report that lists out the monthly budget, year to date, all that kind of stuff, and then the account numbers and line items.
Yep.
And all that should be listed out for us. We don't currently have that, and it's a source of frustration for me, but we'll get there.
I know it's taking time to get it
It's
all
just
done.
one more thing, because I kind of feel like we're just giving you a big blob of papers right now, and this is what it is, and that's really not the best way to report back.
Well, the main thing is there is some accountability and the bills are being paid and people are being paid. That's the
Right,
main
right.
thing.
Yeah, we're taking care of it. It's just, I'd like to see a better
Yeah.
process or a better system for what comes back here.
Any further questions for Cheryl? No. Cheryl, can you see if somebody's logged on from the public?
Well, we had Ed Thorson there for a while, but he's off, and I don't have anybody on, so there's not gonna be any questions.
I've been getting close to it.
So it's open for public comment. Yes.
I was asked today, is there gonna be a point of contact established with the local people that want to help in fires? Paul did on the last one.
That's a direct question. Like, we're given the chief direction to put a list together for resources and so on, but if people, the chief's going to decide where those resources would go and when to enact them. So I would say the chief or his designee would be the point of contact.
Well, I kind of gathered that from the previous discussion. Thing is that on a spur of the moment, these guys are going to get their water wagon hooked up and go spray water somewhere, and they aren't going to bother with the chief or any of the
I
fire department.
I think one of the things that we learned from so one of the things is my background, I was involved with emergency management, studying after action reports and with all different disasters, and specifically for the city of Portland. And one of the things that we learned from that is developing resource lists and then putting them through some training so they understand what's needed. Because if you have one person go over here and get rid of what water they have, and one person go over here and get rid of what water they have, and yet the water really needs to go here, there has to be coordination, because then it goes chaotic, and then the objective is not met, which is to get the fire out, right?
Well, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And
So one of the things that they've done all over with CERT is a perfect example, is we have people in the public that want to be involved and want to help. And we put them through some training on some expectation that when, excuse my French, when the shit hits the fan, they could open that and go, I need, my first thing to do is report down to the fire station, see what the objective is and see how I'm playing into it. You know what I mean?
oh, sure, I
So-
understand both sides of the argument.
Right.
There are people, the person that asked me this question is bullheaded enough to say, up yours, I'm gonna do this.
But when they see how we have a plan and how come it's important, we're going to educate them enough where they're going to get it, even if they're bullheaded. They're going to say, yep, that makes sense. So, I mean, one of the things, and maybe it's baby steps, but I think it's important to realize that they want to help. And that's the big thing that we really appreciate. And now what we realize from the wildfires is Clackamas knew nobody here, nobody. There was no developed relationships. And all the people that were here that had some developed relationships, like the career people next door and the chief, they were all gone. And this were all different people. So we're going to develop friendships, relationships, understand what people can provide, and make sure we do it safely.
Well,
You know, and to do it safely, we have to be coordinated. And I think the chief is our leader, that we've gone through a huge selection process to choose who we believe is the best person for the best fit here. And I think he's going to come with vision, and he's going to come with collaboration. And, you know, I don't know how much of it will get done for this fire season, but I guarantee you it's going to happen. The board heard clear message from the public. And therefore, we are doing everything to make sure that what happened before doesn't happen again. So.
that's their concern. I think you're absolutely right. The training is necessary. I don't know how that's going to be accepted.
Well, we'll figure a way to deliver it in such a way that it will be. Trust me, he comes from a country town. We totally get it. We're all live here. That's why you elect people that live in your fire district. We get it, right? I totally know how people tick and what and how they think. And so I do know there's ways to deliver it in such a way that they understand the value of it. And if they understand the value of it, and we partner with them, and they meet us in the middle, and sometimes it includes some compromise, but the objective still being met through coordination.
So, educate me, and maybe it was, I'm gonna ask for Chief O'Connor. But our company, we're scared after the last fire. So we have a 3,700 gallon tank that slip tank that goes in the back of our dump truck that can draft and fill other things. We can fight fire with it. We've got rear sprays on it. We want to make that available to the fire department in case there's an emergency. What does that process look like? I mean, it can be a simple 2-sentence thing.
Yeah, at this point, it's pretty early on in its infancy, right? Because we're just trying to get our own people trained and ready to go. But we have started down that path of, all right, we got people out there that want to help. If something bumps up, we want to be able to grab those resources. So whether it's your tank of water or your guy's bulldozer or extra hands or whatever the case may be, we have the ability to get a hold of the right person to get it there and get it there quickly. coming from a, wildfire background, I mean, you get on the great big project fires and depending on what's going on, you can wait when you need resources for 24 hours or longer. And I think here we have an ability to actually get them probably within the hour, sometimes minutes, depending on where they're located. So it's just a matter of a phone call. And if we can't get out because of cell service, well, we're able to communicate with the dispatch center and they can contact for us type of thing.
But
So
is there a certification, like if we have that resources there, something that we have to do to get certified?
Ideally, all these other resources would actually have their basic wildland fire training, but you're not going to see that in most places because that's not their world. That's not what they work in. So I talked with Director Miller a little bit about it because he's obviously real big into that. And we talked about hold harmless papers that would be signed by these people. Preferably if we could do it ahead of time would be all the better. So that, yeah, you understand you're coming to help, but you're also acting independently under some guidance from the fire district, something along those lines.
So with what we did last September, the big, we had all these community resources. The big failure was we had no communication with Clackamas. I ran this road, I don't know how many times, all I wanted was one of them to pull over and say, hey, we've got 4 brush rigs up Hillock, keep them full of water. Because I questioned what I was doing, was it the right thing to be doing? I would rather somebody with chief's experience direct and orchestrate how this all goes so we can be the most successful, a coach or whatever. Otherwise, you're just kind of running all on your own. We did great things, but there was also a lot of loss. And maybe the loss wouldn't have been there if we would have had that direction as to where to go.
So for me, I was on the Holiday Farm fire up in the Rainbow Blue River area when all this happened. I was signed up on that end. And effectively where I was at, we got cut off. We couldn't get down to the other side of the fire, and all the resources down there couldn't get to us. But we had a whole lot of local resources, kind of an Estacada type of scenario where you had bulldozers, you had water trucks, you had guys with chainsaws, and yeah, we put them to work. I mean, without all this other hoopla that we're talking about here, it was just a conversation of, hey, I'm talking to you. Can you do that? You got the truck, can you go do it type of thing. And that's how it came together. It comes together that quickly. So it's almost more of a matter of your people knowing what's expected from the agency. So our firefighters, those are conversations we're having. If you're working a brush fire and you're assigned over on the north end and the guy comes along and has a water truck, yeah, take his water, let him fill you up, let him help out, let him work, don't turn him away. So a lot of it's real impromptu, it's spur of the moment, but depending on how you handle it, you're the one in charge of that particular unit, that area, what works out. It comes together just fine. You got to be willing to work with local resources. There's people out there that are.
The unfortunate thing with this year is that, we're behind the 8 ball and no blame. It's just, there's been a lot of work going on with this restart and we have the driest season we've ever had. So, I kind of feel like we're rolling the gamut here on this whole deal. But the nice thing is we know as a community, they'll step up. And 99.9% of those people that have those assets know how to use it. They use them well. So we had on the job training last year. So if we had that leadership, it would be amazing what we could get done. I really feel.
I think that's the point that I was asked, is there going to be there's going to be a chain of command? Obviously there is. People are being taught. But there's got to be something that Joe Blow can say, hey, I need to work with this. What am I going to do?
So touching on what you just said made me think of something. So there was people in the community, and I didn't realize that I was one of them until this fire happened, that people looked up to me. So George Youngberg's another one. There's a bunch of us. Conversations with those people would be key because we kept people kind of on the straight and narrow of what to do. Those people followed us. So if we follow you and they follow us, chief doesn't have to try and explain everything to everybody. As long as he's got a key community members that those people will follow, then he's not having to orchestrate everything with everybody. I've run the scenarios over in my head, 9 paid guys. Well, they're not gonna be all out there at all one time, and the ops chief and Lashbrook, and I mean, you gotta face the facts. Something like happens again, the department's overwhelmed,
I think you hit the nail right on the head there, Paul. Somebody get these leaders together, or offer them the opportunity to sit down with the chief or whoever his designee is and say, look, at this is what we want to rely on.
I don't want to do ever again what I did last year. I was always raised, you step down to fireman, police, authority. There was a line we crossed. And once we crossed that line, it was no holds barred at that point. And that's where some of the chaos came with Clackamas, with some of the stuff that happened, because we already crossed that line. And I don't want that to happen again. I would rather that line be put in by our officers and our department, and we work together to accomplish what needs to be accomplished.
That's exactly why we got a brand new fire department.
So, and just so that you know, action item number B9 is the one I brought forward with a list of resources that would include a mechanism for activating them and having them work like under the Youngbergs and communication and so on. So, I mean, the chief's already had the board now. Nobody disagreed. So, and the chief already stated like he did that he's already working on that, and of course, at the same token, we're 15 days old. 15 days old, fire department, you know what I mean? I mean, so,
Exactly what you mean.
yeah.
I guarantee you, if something like that was to happen again, I would be down here with my truck waiting for somebody to come see me. I would not just take off up in the woods and go do what I felt needed to be done. And I think George would probably be the same way too, unless there was a good friend of ours' house that was, being threatened, intimate, so. We have to have that structure this time if this ever happens again. We absolutely have to. So.
I get the picture that everybody has it in mind and actually actively work.
You
It's
betcha.
not something that's gonna slip by the wayside. That's an asset to it. We said it enough, but it's only a matter of days old, so.
Yeah, they realize that.
Well, this is the reason why we're starting our fire department again. Because it didn't work before.
Now, the only problem is though, even before the contract for services, it wouldn't have worked either. It would have been our local guys, how well our local guys would have brought in our community also.
Well, I think there would have been more collaboration,
I think so. I think so.
nevertheless.
But I don't think to the level that it needs to be.
I agree with you. I mean,
So,
so what we can do is look at the mistakes of the past and the experience of the past we have and design a plan for in case that happens in the future. That's all we can do.
We already know how bad it can get.
Yep. I know there's a lot of people that have spent a lot of money in our community, myself one of them. I'm building a new water tender. The tank gets on a truck Monday, and Weston's bought a new tanker. There's been everybody's buying IBC totes and pumps and hose. I mean, there's a lot. I mean, we are in a lot better position now than we were last year, put it that way. We have some experience, plus we see the need, and so, yeah, it's all good. Everyone wants to help. Yeah.
That's good. It just needs some direction.
Yeah.
So just so that you know, because when I mentioned about the water tender filling up a pool, because of the public, I used the word tender. You guys keep saying tanker. And in my mind, and I just clarified with the chief, a tanker has fixed wings and it flies in the air. And I'm thinking, how do you build a tanker? Like,
So, yeah, I look at it, if it's a construction water truck, it's a tanker.
right?
It's a tanker.
But in language, if you called and you said to him, hey, I got a tanker, he thinks you're ready to do an airdrop.
Yeah, I think I got aircraft coming in.
That's how language, that's how language,
If you got a guy with.
To me, if it drafts and can dump into a pool for the fire department has, it's a tender.
right?
So in the first class with the public, His terminology.
Terminology.
Let's get it dialed in.
All right.
Just call it a water track.
So any board comments or anything? Okay, the next regular meeting is August 19th, 7 p.m. via remote video conferencing. If something comes up that needs some action item, I'll reach out to everybody for doing a special meeting if something comes up in the meantime. So if nothing does, see you at the August 19th meeting. All right, with that being said, we're adjourned.
Mr. Wheeler, thanks for bringing that up.
It's been a topic of conversation since September.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I know that the community is uneasy.
Same way up.
And, yeah, we're in a much better position, other than being drier, but we're in a much better position with assets, mentality of people that, you know, the one thing I seen that I didn't like with the community ones was how much drinking was going on.
Just, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll make a big deal. We must have.
Well, it's about as I'm done.
Well, no one's on it.
9:30, I go to bed. I get up at 6.